Alright, so let's answer the final half of this paper. So question 13, we're going to work this out without a calculator. So first change the mixed number into an improper number. So 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3, that gives you 7. So 7 over 4. Now 7 over 4 times 6 over 35. We're going to do 7 times 6, that's 42, over 4 times 35, which is 140. Now, if you don't know how to simplify, you can place in your calculator and it will give you 3 over 10. That means you divided the entire thing by 14. Whatever you do to the denominator, you have to do to the numerator. Alright, so question 14. Use the sine rule to find the angle ABC. So basically, with the sine rule, you have 2 angles and 2 lengths. So sine x over 5.9, which is the length in front of it, then sine 84.6 over 17.8, which is the length right in front of it, right? So x with 5.9 and c with 17.8. Now what we're going to do is cross multiply. So 5.9 times sine 84.6 and sine x times 17.8. Then we're going to try to make x the subject of the formula. So once you have that, you're going to divide the entire thing by 17.8. Then that will give you sine x. Now to find x itself, we're going to move sine to the other side, so that will be sine inverse of everything that we just figured out, right? And if you place that in your calculator, then x will equal to 19.3 degrees. Of course, leave it to 1 decimal point because everything else was left to 1 decimal point in the question. Alright, so question 15. Y is directly proportional to x minus 1, all of it squared. So you're going to place a k or basically any letter, because that's going to be a constant that we're going to find later. But when they say it's inversely proportional, then it's going to be k or a or whatever it may be over what they told you. In this case, it would be x minus 1 squared. But since it's directly proportional, we're going to use the first part. So it's directly proportional when y is equal to 4 and x is equal to 5. So substitute that and try to find k. You're going to, of course, use BEDMAS. So brackets first, then exponents, then division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction, and so on. So 5 minus 1, 4. 4 squared, that's 16. So move the 16 to the other side, you're going to divide that. So 4 divided by 16, which if you simplify is 1 over 4. So that's k. Now we need to find y when x is equal to 7. So 7 minus 1 is 6. 6 squared is 36. 36 times 1 over 4, that gives you 9. And that is the answer of y. Okay, and question 16 now. On the grid, draw the image of shape R after the transformation represented by this matrix. So first you're going to find the coordinates of each point. So point A, B, C, and D. So you found A, 1 is -1, and so on. You're going to multiply now, basically. So you're going to take the horizontal part, 0 and -1, multiply it by the vertical, 1 and -1. And you're going to continue doing that for all of them. So basically, 0 times 1 plus -1 times -1, which gives you 1. So you found the first part for A, the x-coordinate for A, basically. And if you want to find the x-coordinate for, the y-coordinate for A, you'll do 1 times 1 plus 0 times -1. So that would give you also 1. So then we're going to continue doing that for all the other sides, so all the other points, so for B, C, and D. So 0 times 2 plus -1 times 1, and 1 times 2 plus 0 times 1, and so on. You keep doing that until you get the 4 coordinates, and you're just going to draw it out on your grid like how you'd normally do, of course with x being first and then the y. Of course, with more practice, you'll be able to solve this more easily and more quickly, and you won't have to write out everything that I have done for you. But it's best to write it out just in case so you don't make any silly mistake. Now we're going to calculate the distance between the 2 stations. If you want to find the distance in a speed-time graph, you're going to have to find the area underneath the graph. In this case, the area is a trapezium. So we need to know the formula that's needed to find the area of a trapezium. That's a plus b over 2 times h. A and b being the sides and h being the height. So in this case, a is 90 because it's 100 minus 10, and b is 130. So 90 plus 130 divided by 2 times 20, which is the height. That gives you 2,200 meters. Now, to find the average speed, we need to do have the entire distance over the time taken. We already found the entire distance, which is 2,200, and the time taken is already given to us, which is 130 seconds. So that speed would be 16.9 meters per second. Alright, so for question 18, we're trying to find the interquartile range, which is the upper quartile minus the lower quartile. So of course, quartiles you can tell from like quarters, if you know with cash, so 25 cents, then you got 50, then 75, then 100 cents, or basically $1. So in order to find the upper quartile, you're going to use the maximum, which is 120, number of people, then times 0.75, which is 90. Then the lower quartile, you're going to do 120 times 0.25, which gives you 30. Now we found those. We're going to try to reach the x-axis now. We're going to spread out this line from at 90 and at 30. And if you go down where it touches the graph, it gives you 30 and 20. So now all we have to do is subtract 20 from 30, and that gives you 10 minutes. Now the school, right? We're trying to find the number of students that completed the homework in more than 50 minutes. So we're going to go to 50 minutes. We're going to go up and find it where it stops, or when the graph cuts the 50, and that's at 116 frequency, or the 116 students. So then you're going to do 120 minus 116, that gives you 4. So a total of 4 students ended up taking more than 50 minutes. Now question 19, we're going to use the cosine rule to get the angle of LMN. So we're going to place A as 16, B as 19, and C as 14, the one right in front of X. So the cosine rule is C is equal to the square root of everything, A squared plus B squared minus 2 times A times B times cosine of C. And in this case, cosine C is cosine X. So we need to memorize this. And now we're trying to make cosine C or cosine X the subject of the formula. So if we want to change the square root, we're going to move it there. It becomes C squared, which equals to A squared plus B squared minus 2 times A times B times cosine C. Then move them to the other side, so C squared minus A squared minus B squared is equal to negative 2AB cosine C. Then we're going to divide by negative 2AB. So C squared minus A squared minus B squared over negative 2AB gives you cosine C. Move the cosine to the other side, it becomes cosine inverse. So C is equal to cosine inverse C squared minus A squared minus B squared over negative 2AB. Now all you have to do is simply substitute the values now. So C being 14, A being 16, and B being 19. And if you place that in the calculator, it will give you the angle of LMN. And of course, I got rid of here the negative by multiplying the whole thing by negative 1. So then negative A squared became positive A squared, and so on. So A squared plus B squared minus C squared over 2AB. But you don't have to do that. So 16 squared plus 19 squared minus 14 squared over 2 times 16 times 19. Of course, you use the cosine rule when you don't have any angles, and use the sine rule when you do. And the answer is 46.2 degrees. I just left it off to 3 significant figures, because that's kind of like the default. Okay, so question 20. A box contains 3 blue pens, 4 red pens, and 8 green pens. A pen is chosen at random from the box, and find the probability that this pen is green. So we find the total, which is 15, then 8 over 15, that's it. That's just the probability of getting an orange pen, because there's 8 out of the 15. Now another box contains 7 black pens and 8 orange pens. And when you take it out, you don't put it back. That's what they said. And 2 of them are chosen at a time. 2 pens are chosen at random, right? So find the probability that at least 1 orange is chosen. So the total is 15. And what I did now is write out a tree diagram. So the first time you pick it out, you have 2 options. You're either going to get a black or an orange. Same with the second time you pick out a pen. It's either black or orange. So probability of getting a black is 7 out of the 15, and getting an orange is 8 out of 15. If you realize 7 plus 8 is 15, and 15 divided by 15 is 1. It always has to add up to 1. So getting a black pen after picking up a black pen in the first will give you 6/14 because first of all there's going to be only 6 black pens left, and total of pens being there is 14 because they said without replacement. And for the orange, it's still going to be 8/14 because we didn't lose any orange pens. Now if we take the orange, which is 8 out of 15, and then we use the black, it's 7/14 because we didn't lose any of the black pens, we didn't take any of them, but there are 14 pens left. And for the orange, it's going to be 8 minus 1, which is 7/14. Now to find the probability that at least one orange is chosen, there's 2 ways that you can do this. You can do the black times the orange, or the orange times the black, or the orange times orange, and you add them up all together. Because when you go across the tree diagram, you multiply. So 7/15 times 8/14 plus 8/15 times 7/14 plus 8/15 times 7/14. Or you can do an easy way where 1 minus the one that doesn't have an orange at all, which is the black times the black. So 7/15 times 6/14. Of course, it's 1 minus the thing because 1 is the probability. If you add them all up together, it will always give you 1. That's how you know your tree diagram is correct. So you're going to place that in your calculator and get the answer, which in this case is 168 over 210. And if you simplify that, or just use your calculator to do that, it'll give you 4/5. You can keep it as 168 over 210 or 4/5. You'll still get the marks. So for question 21, we need to find the inequality that defines the region R. So they gave us one of them, which is y is less than and equal to x plus 1. So when you have an equal to, less than, equal to, or greater than, equal to, that's when the line is solid. And when it's dashed, it's just there's no equal to. So we have one of them that's really easy to find, which is y is equal to 1.5, because it's just a straight up line. That's all it is, straight horizontal line. So we're going to find first the equations, and then we're going to change them into inequalities. So then the next one, which I'm going to use this first line at the top, you're going to find the points, so 0 and 1 and 2 and 3, and we're going to use that to find the equation. So y is equal to mx plus c. Find m, which I mentioned many times before. You're going to do 3 minus 1 over 2 minus 0, so y over x. So that will give you 2/2, which is 1. So y is equal to x plus c. Then to find c, substitute one of the coordinates. We can use 0 and 1 because it's easier. So y is equal to 1, x is equal to 0, so that means c is just equal to 1. So you have one of the equations now. Y is equal to x plus 1, which actually is the one that they found, so we're not supposed to be using that as an answer. So then we have the other line that's going up. You have the point 0, 0 and the points 4, 3. So we're going to use that same exact steps to find the equation, and that's all. Then you go to the last line, which is the dashed one. You're also going to do the exact same thing. You're going to get 2 points. You're going to find the gradient. Then you're going to find c, which is the y-intercept. To be honest, we don't even have to calculate c because we already know what the y-intercept is. For example, the one with y is equal to x plus 1, you can see already in the graph that it intercepts the y-axis at 1. The one with the dashed lines, we know that it intercepts the y-axis at 3, which we honestly don't even have to calculate at this point. So you realize these little things, and it will actually help you out, and you become faster, and so you waste less time. So now to change it into an inequality, we're trying to find what suits it. So for example, y is equal to 1.5. R is above it, so that means y is greater than or equal to 1.5 because it's actually above. That's what we want. We want the stuff that's above 1.5. Then for the other equation, y is equal to x plus 1, the one that they already found, they told us that it's less than or equal to, because you can tell the r is below the line. Then for the y is equal to 3/4x, r is above the line, it's not below it, so it's going to be y is greater than or equal to 3/4x. And for the last one, which is the dashed one, y is equal to -½ x plus 3, you can tell the r is below the line, so it's going to be less than. Not equal to, because again it's a dashed line, so y is less than a negative half x plus 3. And there you go, you got the 3 inequalities and you're done with this question. So now question 22. Now question 22, you have these two functions. They said f of f is negative 3, so you're going to put f into f. So 5 minus 2, here's an x. Where there's an x, you'll put this. 5 minus 2x. This is for f of x. Now we're just going to put, instead of x, negative 3. So 5 minus 2, 5 minus 2, negative 3. So 2 times negative 3, negative, negative, negative times negative equals a positive. So 5 plus 6 is 11. Then negative 2 times 11 is negative 22. 5 minus 22 is negative 17. Again, bed mess. Don't forget that. Then BG is 2 of x. So here you have x squared plus 8. So where there's x, you'll put 2x instead. So 2x squared plus 8. So that means 2 squared times x squared plus 8. So 4x squared plus 8. Then f inverse. So f you can write as this. Y is 5 minus 2x. You make them switch. So x is 5 minus 2y. Then you make this subject to the formula. So 5 minus 2y equals x. Negative 2y is x minus 5 because we move it that way. Then divide by negative 2. So y is x minus 5 over negative 2. Or get rid of the negative, you switch the signs. So this 5 minus x over 2. Question 23. Number of people is 40. 40 people. The mode is 4 because if you can tell, the cinema that's visited the most is number 4. This is the cinema that's visited the most with 7 people. Now to find the mean, this is what you're going to do. 5 times 0 plus 5 times 1 plus 2 times 6 and so on over 40. That gives you 128 over 40, which is 3.2. It's the same as saying there's 0 people here. There's 5 people that went to 1 cinema, so 5, plus 6 people that went to 2 cinemas, so that's 12, so 5 plus 12, and so on. Now B, people that visited the cinema 5 times were 3 out of the 40. See, finished 5 times for only 3 people. So 3 divided by 40 is this. Now because in a circle, that is 360 degrees, right? So 0.75 times 360 is 27 degrees. Or you can do this times 360. Now point A is 1, 0. Point B is 2, 5. Find the angle between line AB and the x-axis. First, form the equation of line AB. This is the gradient. This is the y-intercept. This is where the line crosses the y-axis. This is the gradient or the slope. M is, again, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So here xy, xy. So 5 minus 0 and 2 minus 1. 5 minus 0, 2 minus 1. That's 5 over 1, which is 5. So y is 5x plus c. Use any coordinate, for example, 2 and 5. So 5 is the y, 2 is the x. So 5 is equal to 2 times 10 plus c. Move it there. 5 minus 10, c is negative 5. This is the equation. Now, tan theta is equal to m1 minus m2 over 1 plus this. Memorize this. So put in the info. So the first gradient is 5. The second gradient is 0. X-axis. No slope. So 0, then 1 plus 5 times 0. So that's 5 over 1. Then theta is tan inverse 5. So that's 78.7 degrees. Then line PQ is this and point P is this. The equation that passes point P and perpendicular to line PQ, y mx plus c. M is perpendicular, is the reciprocal with the sign switch. So m1, m2 is negative 1. So 3 times x is negative 1. So x is negative 1 divided by 3. So this is it. Then we have this point. So substitute the point and you work for c. So the answer is y is negative 1 over 3x plus 12. And